Right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into the world of digital twins. I mean, this sounds like, something straight out of science fiction, to be honest with you. And, well, it kind of is, right?
Yeah.
But this tech, this digital twin tech, it's already kind of out there.
Yeah.
It's making some waves in the real world. And we're here to kind of figure out, why does it matter to you, to the listener? Why should you care about this stuff? And we'll be talking about all this stuff today, pulling out some thoughts and insights from this article by Daz Williams.
Daz Williams, okay.
Yeah, great. He's the Chief AI Officer at Influx Technologies. And this article is called The Matrix Reloaded, How Digital Twins Are Reshaping Reality. I mean, talk about a catchy title, right?
Yeah, for sure. And a very relevant topic.
Yeah. I mean, are you ready to see how deep this digital rabbit hole goes?
I think so. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So maybe we should just start by, really getting clear on what we're talking about. What exactly is a digital twin?
Right.
I mean, Williams defines it in the article as a virtual replica of physical entities. And he says, be it a product, a process, or even an entire city.
Wow, a whole city.
Yeah, it's more than just a 3D model, or a blueprint. This digital twin, it's dynamic, it's evolving, and it's constantly being updated with real-time data. And it's using all this data to mirror its physical counterpart, the real thing.
So it's like a digital shadow.
Yeah, like a shadow.
Constantly learning and updating from the real thing.
Wow.
Okay. So how does that actually even work?
So think of it this way. All these sensors out there in the world, you've got Internet of Things devices, right?
IoT
devices, yeah. And all kinds of other data sources. They all they're like the nervous system of the digital twin. So they're constantly feeding the twin a stream of information all the time.
Like a fire hose of data.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this allows the twin to simulate, and to analyze different scenarios.
Interesting.
It's not just reflecting the present.
Right.
It could even potentially predict the future.
Wow.
Or even manipulate the future.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this Matrix Reloaded title comes in now.
Right.
It's getting a little philosophical here.
Yeah, for sure.
But before we get too deep into all that,
yeah,
can you give me a concrete example? How does this actually work in practice?
Sure, yeah. So one area where digital twins are already making a huge impact is healthcare.
Okay.
So imagine this, okay? A doctor can practice a really complex surgery on a virtual heart.
Oh, wow.
But it's not just any virtual heart, right? This heart is personalized to their patient.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, before they even pick up a scalpel in the real world.
So it's not just about reducing the risk. It's about really tailoring those treatments to that individual.
Exactly.
Wow, that seems like that's a game changer, really.
Totally.
So Williams also talks about urban planning. What's the potential there?
So urban planning is it's another exciting frontier for this technology. So city planners, they could use a digital twin of their city to simulate the impact of a new bus route, for example. They could see how it affects traffic flow, air quality, pedestrian movement, all that stuff.
It's like having a virtual city sandbox.
Yeah, exactly.
You could just experiment and just kind of play around.
Yeah.
And make better decisions before you actually go and implement anything in the real world.
Exactly. Yeah. And that ability to test and refine ideas in a risk-free environment, I mean, that's one of the most compelling aspects of digital twins. But, we do need to kind of address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
All this data being collected, all this power, concentrated in the hands of whoever controls these twins.
Right. It's like any really powerful tool. It could be used for good or for bad. It all depends on who's wielding it and for what purpose.
Exactly.
So that brings us to the privacy concerns.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, Williams doesn't shy away from in his article.
Yeah.
What are some of the red flags, I guess, that he highlights?
The most immediate concern is what he calls the all-seeing eye.
Okay.
So think about your digital footprint, right?
Yeah.
Your location data, your browsing history, your purchase records, all of that stuff. It feeds into your digital twin.
Wow.
Creating this incredibly detailed picture of your life.
Yeah.
Now imagine that information being accessed without your knowledge or your consent.
It's a little chilling. to think about. It's like someone is constantly watching you.
Yeah.
Even if you can't, like, see them.
Right.
And then there's the question of, who owns that data? Does it belong to you, to the company that created the twin, the government?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge gray area right now. The legal and ethical frameworks, they haven't really caught up to the technology. And it goes beyond just data ownership, right? What happens when decisions about your life, like, loan approvals or insurance rates are being made based on algorithms that are analyzing your digital twin?
So our digital selves could start having more weight than our real selves.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
What about this idea of, like, predicting someone's behavior based on their digital twin?
That's what Williams calls predictive privacy invasion.
Okay.
Could your digital twin be used to, like, anticipate your choices, your preferences, even your future actions? And what if that information is used to manipulate you or control you?
Okay, now we're getting into some, like, Minority Report territory here.
Kind of.
This is intense stuff.
It is.
Williams also talks about security vulnerabilities.
Right.
What's the risk there?
Well, I mean, think of it this way. The more valuable something is, the more attractive it is to people who might exploit it.
Yeah.
So hacking into a digital twin could give someone access to it. Just an unprecedented amount of personal data.
Wow.
With the potential for real-world harm. Okay,
so we need to be thinking about cybersecurity, ethical frameworks, even the philosophical implications of all this. It's not just about the cool gadgets and all the shiny possibilities.
Exactly.
There's a dark side to this, too.
There is. We have to approach digital twins with a critical eye, I think. We have to ask tough questions.
Right.
And we have to demand safeguards to make sure that they're used responsibly. We can't just let this technology evolve without considering the consequences.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
We have to be careful, very careful with all this stuff. So it feels like we're kind of standing at a crossroads here with this technology. Yeah. On one hand, you have, this incredible potential for positive change, Right. But then on the other hand, there are these very real concerns, right?
Yeah.
About privacy control and, the potential for all this stuff to be misused.
For sure.
So I guess the question is, like, where do we go from here? Is there a way to navigate this whole thing without, like, falling into a dystopian future?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And I think Williams offers some really valuable insights in his article. He argues that we have a choice to make, right?
Okay.
We can either, like, passively accept the development of this technology and just kind of hope for the best, or we can be proactive and actually try to shape its trajectory to make sure that it aligns with our values, and that it protects our rights.
So it's not about rejecting the technology outright. It's about being more intentional about how it's developed and implemented.
Exactly.
But how do we actually do that?
That's the tough part, right?
Yeah.
So Williams outlines a series of solutions that I think are worth considering, first and foremost.
Yeah.
He emphasizes the importance of transparency and consent. So we need to know, as users, what data is being collected.
Right.
How is it being used?
Yep.
And who has access to it?
Right.
And we should have the right to opt out if we're not comfortable with the terms,
Absolutely. So it's about kind of empowering individuals.
Yes.
To make informed decisions about their digital self.
Exactly.
So what else can we do besides transparency and consent to kind of tip the scales towards a more, like, positive outcome with all this?
So one key concept that he talks about is data minimization.
Okay.
So instead of collecting every single data point, right? We need to be more selective. We need to focus on the data that's absolutely necessary for the specific purpose of that digital twin.
So less is more in this case.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not about, like, creating a digital clone with every single detail of our lives.
Exactly.
It's about, kind of, a more targeted representation that serves a specific purpose.
Exactly.
What about protecting the data?
That IS collected. That's essential, right? Yeah. Anonymization and encryption, those are essential safeguards.
Okay.
So our data needs to be protected from unauthorized access, both from hackers and from anyone who might misuse it for profit or for control. So we're talking about creating a secure environment where our digital identities are respected.
Okay. So it sounds like we need a multi-pronged approach here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Transparency, data minimization, strong security measures.
Absolutely.
But who's ultimately responsible for implementing all these safeguards?
Right.
Is it up to individuals to protect themselves, or do we need a larger framework?
I think we need both, right? So this is where regulatory frameworks come into play. Yeah. We need laws and regulations that can actually keep up with this rapidly evolving technology. Right. They need to set clear boundaries, for data collection, use, and ownership.
So it's about creating a level playing field.
Yes.
Where individual rights are actually protected.
Right.
Even in this digital realm.
Exactly.
So we need a combination of.
Right.
Like individual empowerment and collective action.
Yes.
It's not just about personal responsibility.
Right.
It's also about advocating for policies that actually protect our privacy.
Exactly.
And ensure that this technology is being used ethically.
I agree.
Okay. So what about the role of artificial intelligence in all of this?
Well, AI is like the engine that drives digital twins, Yeah. It analyzes all that data and generates insights. But with that power comes a potential for bias, discrimination, just like unintended consequences. So Williams really emphasizes the importance of ethical AI development.
It's like we're creating this powerful new species of digital intelligence.
Yeah, it kind of is.
And we need to make sure that it's programmed with the right values. So how do we ensure that?
Yeah.
How do we ensure that AI is used for good and not for control and manipulation?
That's a tough question. I think it involves developing clear ethical guidelines, for AI development. We need to ensure that there's diverse representation in the field, and we need to build in mechanisms for accountability and transparency.
Okay.
And I think it's also about fostering a public conversation about the role of AI in society and the potential risks and rewards.
So Williams ends his article with this really thought-provoking question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he says, if you could have a digital twin, what would you want it to be able to do, and what safeguards would you want in place to protect your privacy?
That's a great question.
It is. It makes you think.
It does.
What about you? What kind of digital twin would you be comfortable with?
That's a tough one, I think. I'd want a digital twin that could help me optimize my health,
Okay.
Maybe help me make more sustainable choices, and maybe even connect with others in more meaningful ways.
Okay, yeah.
But I would also want strong safeguards in place.
Of course.
To make sure that my data is protected, that my privacy is respected, and that my autonomy is preserved.
Right, that's key.
Yeah.
So it seems like finding that balance between innovation and responsibility, that's really the key here.
I think so.
We need to kind of embrace the potential of this technology while also being mindful of the risks and advocating for a future where this technology serves humanity, not the other way around.
I agree.
But I wonder, beyond the individual level, what are the larger societal implications of all this? So we've talked about like the individual impacts of this tech, on like a personal level.
Right.
But I'm curious about like the bigger picture.
Yeah.
How might digital twins like reshape our society as a whole?
Well, one area where I think it has huge implications is urban planning.
Okay.
Like imagine a city planner using a digital twin to simulate the effects of like a new park.
Oh, interesting.
They could actually see the impact on property values, pedestrian traffic, even like noise levels.
So instead of just relying on like intuition or, static models, they would have this like dynamic data-driven way to make decisions.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. So what about like beyond cities?
Yeah.
Could this apply to like larger systems, like ecosystems?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Like we could model the effects of climate change on a forest or simulate like the spread of a disease to try to figure out how to contain it.
So it's like having a crystal ball almost.
Yeah, in a way.
Let's just like look into the future and anticipate problems and make better decisions.
It's about understanding those complex systems.
But with such powerful tools, right, there's always the risk of like unintended consequence.
Oh, for sure.
What concerns should we be considering on like a societal level?
Well, one of the biggest concerns, I think, is the potential for increased inequality. access to these sophisticated tools, might be limited to like those with resources, which could just make existing power imbalances even worse.
Right. So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about like how it's developed and accessed and controlled.
Exactly.
It's a social and political issue as much as a technological one.
Absolutely.
And there's also like the risk of, over-reliance on these models.
You can't forget that there's simulations. They're not reality. Just blindly trusting the data could lead to some really bad decisions.
It's like trusting your GPS blindly.
Yeah.
Even when it tells you to drive into a lake.
Exactly.
You need to use your judgment.
Right. Human judgment and critical thinking are still so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing to consider is potential job displacement.
Oh, right.
As certain tasks become automated.
Yeah.
What happens to the people who used to do those jobs?
The question that comes up with like every technological leap forward. But history also shows us that. New technologies create new jobs too.
That's true.
Like think about the internet.
Yeah.
Disrupted tons of industries.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But it also created whole new sectors.
Right.
Millions of jobs.
Exactly. So the key is to anticipate those shifts,
Right.
and make sure that people have the skills they need to thrive in that changing landscape.
Yes, so education and adaptability are key.
I think so.
We need to be like lifelong learners.
Yeah.
Ready to evolve alongside the technology.
Couldn't agree more.
So I think it's clear. We need to approach digital twins with caution, but also with curiosity.
Yes. Embrace that potential.
Yeah.
But stay vigilant about the risks.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive. From personalized medicine to smart cities, from ethical considerations to the potential for social disruption. Digital twins are clearly a force to be reckoned with.
They are.
So what's the takeaway here? What should they remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the future is not something that just happens to us.
Right.
We have the power to shape it,
to
guide the development of these technologies in a way that benefits all of humanity.
And that is a future worth fighting for.
Absolutely.
A future where digital twins enhance our lives, but they also respect our values.
Yes.
Our privacy, and our shared humanity.
I agree.
And that, my friends, is a wrap on our deep dive into the world of digital twins. Thanks for joining us, and keep those minds buzzing.